How can you make someone willingly hand over their cash to you with nothing but a single lottery ticket? Bringing his daughter along to a lottery shop, he first copies down yesterday's winning numbers, deliberately changes one of the digits, and then has the clerk print out a brand new ticket. However, the clerk straight up laughs at him like he is a total fool. Once back in the car, he first crumbles the lottery ticket until it is completely wrinkled, and then immediately uses a coin to scratch off the date on it. Afterward, he has his daughter go into a laundromat, where she then strikes up a conversation with a middle-aged woman. Just as the girl prepares to leave, she nonchalantly drops the lottery ticket onto the floor.
Oh, honey, you dropped something.
Not mine.
It's yesterday's drawing. That looks like the second, don't you think?
Yet, the woman still acts on a stroke of opportunism, thinking that she might just score a quick advantage from it. So she borrows a newspaper from the man next to her to meticulously verify yesterday's winning numbers, only to discover that it is off by a single digit. Just as the woman looks completely disappointed, the man intentionally gives her a hint.
Any luck?
4 out of 5. Can you believe that?
4 out of 5? 4 out of 5 pays. Call the number on the back of the ticket.
Sure enough, the woman makes a phone call to verify it, only to surprisingly find out that the prize money is as high as $600. The sudden pleasant surprise makes the woman overjoyed, prompting her to immediately propose that they split the money right down the middle. However, Angela claims that she is still a minor and is willing to leave the entire prize money to her. But the woman is honest enough to insist on splitting it 50-50 with Angela. Therefore, she withdraws $300 from a nearby ATM and hands it over to Angela. And she would never in a million years expect that she has already fallen dead into the trap set by Angela and her father, even feeling like she just scored a massive bargain. With her very first scam pulling off flawlessly, Angela is incredibly thrilled. However, what her father says next leaves her completely dumbfounded.
I want you to give her the money back.
As a father, Roy will absolutely never let his daughter follow in his footsteps. Yet, as a master con artist himself, he would never have dreamed that he is walking right into a trap laid out by someone else. Roy is a top-tier scam artist who, along with his partner Frank, rents an office specifically to hustle elderly people into buying their water purifiers under the guise of winning a prize and avoiding taxes. Once the targets take the bait, they disguise themselves as detectives and show up at their doorstep, claiming that the elderly couple has been defrauded.
I'm sorry to tell you this, ma'am, but you won't be receiving any prize. And I'm sorry to tell you that you've been the victim of fraud.
Otis, knock it off.
Well, it's not the newest swindle in the world, just new to some. They bait you with something bogus, and they sell you something worthless.
Upon learning that he has been conned, Mr. Schaefer flies into a furious rage right on the spot. Seeing that Mr. Schaefer has fallen into the trap, they use the excuse of obtaining the scammer's receiving account to smooth talk Mr. Schaefer's bank information out of him. Facing the detectives, Mr. Schaefer has absolute faith in them and signs his name without a second thought. Just like that, they not only make money off the water purifiers, but they can also completely empty out the client's bank account. Just as this scam is about to score a total victory, Mrs. Schaefer suddenly pushes open the glass door. Staring at the dust flying all over the place outside, Roy's obsessive-compulsive disorder flares up instantly. To prevent their cover from being blown, Frank has no choice but to call it a day and leave with Roy. It turns out that long periods of running scams all over the place have left Roy with severe mysophobia and OCD, requiring his floors to be absolutely spotless and forcing him to open and close windows and doors exactly 3 times. He relies entirely on medication every single day just to keep his condition under wraps. But on this very day, an unexpected accident strikes. He accidentally spills the entire bottle of pills down the sink. To make matters worse for him, the doctor who originally diagnosed him has actually moved out of town. Without the medication to suppress it, Roy's OCD explodes instantly, turning even stepping out of the house into an unreachable ordeal. So he starts cleaning the house like a madman, attempting to use this method to barely keep his out-of-control symptoms at bay. Driven to despair, Frank finds a psychiatrist named Dr. Klein for Roy, hoping he can help ease his symptoms. As it turns out, Dr. Klein's expertise is terrifyingly high, seeing through right away that Roy is suffering from a psychological issue and that medication can only temporarily suppress his symptoms. If he genuinely wants to break free from his troubles and be completely cured, he must be helped to untie the knots hidden deep in his heart. Klein asks about Roy's family, subtly guiding him to open up his heart. And the pain that Roy is least willing to touch deep down is the regret from his divorce 14 years ago. At that time, his wife Heather was already pregnant, but his paranoia, compulsive behaviors, and the unstable lifestyle that came with being a con artist ultimately led to the collapse of their marriage. Ever since then, he has never laid eyes on that child again, not even knowing whether the baby is a boy or a girl. Whenever he thinks of this deep-seated debt and regret buried in his heart, Roy is overwhelmed with guilt, and his emotions can no longer be held back. Klein hastily prescribes targeted medication for Roy. Sure enough, after Roy takes it, the effectiveness of the drug turns out to be way better than any medication he has ever taken before. Roy is highly satisfied with Dr. Klein, and a few more degrees of trust naturally grow in his heart. To make up for his shortcomings toward his child, he asks Dr. Klein to help him get in touch with Heather. Before long, Roy receives a reply from Klein, stating that Heather still refuses to see him.
Angela wants to talk to you, though.
Who?
Angela, your daughter.
She knows you're her father, and she says she really wants to meet you.
On the way driving to the designated meeting place, Roy's heart is both incredibly nervous and packed with anticipation. However, once he gets there, he worries that his symptoms might flare up again, prompting him to prepare to turn back. Out of nowhere, a girl holding a skateboard suddenly walks over. Roy can feel deep down that this is his child. Seeing that the girl is about to leave, he can no longer care less about his OCD, throwing the car door open and giving chase. During their very first meeting, Angela does not feel overly surprised or thrilled, because in her impression, her father has spent time behind bars.
I've never been in prison.
Oh.
Your mom tell you that?
At first she told me you were dead.
Just like those couples who have been divorced for many years, this sort of explanation seems completely reasonable. To celebrate this long-awaited reunion, Roy takes his daughter out for a massive feast. Watching her wolf down her food, Roy completely loses himself in this long-lost warmth of father-daughter bonding. And all of this is thanks to Frank, who not only helped Roy find a psychiatrist, but also brought about this unexpected reunion with his daughter. To repay Frank, Roy ultimately agrees to help him pull off a massive deal. Their target is a wealthy businessman named Chuck, who is holding on to a massive fortune. And the core plan of Roy and Frank is to convince Chuck to launder money through them, using this as a way to rake in hefty commissions. They intend to not only pocket the juicy commissions, but also seize the perfect opportunity to pull off a bait and switch, swallowing up every single penny of Chuck's massive fortune. In order to smoothly lock down this major deal, Roy disguises himself as a big shot with connections that reach the sky. At this moment, Roy's heart is filled with nothing but emptiness and confusion, as he cannot comprehend the true meaning of money, nor can he use cash to patch up the void inside himself. Yet, right when he has everything bought and ready, the doorbell outside suddenly rings. Roy instinctively raises his guard. However, the moment he looks through the window and sees Angela standing outside, his tense heart relaxes in an instant. It turns out that Angela had a fight with her mom, and she begs Roy to let her crash at his place for the night. Before Roy can even process what is happening, Angela carelessly barges into his spotless room, making Roy feel incredibly uncomfortable, as if his entire body is itching. Yet, facing his own flesh and blood, he cannot bring himself to stop her, leaving him with no choice but to let Angela make a total mess in the house as she pleases. After getting Angela settled in, Roy and Frank kick off their plan. When Chuck greets Frank, Roy deliberately puts on a highly mysterious act right in front of him. Watching the two of them acting so secretive, Chuck's curiosity is successfully piqued. Frank pretends to brush Chuck off, but in reality, he takes the opportunity to reveal Roy's business. Seeing Chuck constantly looking back, they know full well that the guy has successfully swallowed the bait. However, while Roy is working in tight synchronization with Frank outside, he completely forgets that his daughter is home all by herself at this moment. Feeling utterly bored, Angela starts rummaging around everywhere in Roy's meticulously kept room. While playing with a dog figurine, she accidentally twists the dog's head, and upon opening it up, she discovers a gun and stacks of cash hidden inside. By the time Roy makes it back home, Angela has already fallen asleep on the couch. Angela's sudden appearance acts like a tiny beam of light, breaking through Roy's isolated lifestyle and letting him experience the warmth of being needed and trusted for the very first time. At that exact moment, Roy is no longer that cold-blooded scammer. He is just an ordinary father, a man longing for family bonds and warmth. Facing Angela's unreserved trust, Roy's heart has already begun to quietly waver. Ever since Angela moved in, this once cold and rigid home instantly becomes lively and filled with a cozy, lived-in warmth. On this day, Frank knocks on Roy's door, stating that Chuck has actively reached out to him and is urging Roy to hurry up and execute the next phase of the plan. But with his daughter present, Roy has no choice but to postpone the operation until the following day. The next day, Chuck takes the initiative to ask them out to get a better understanding of the business Roy is running. Roy lies that he specializes in laundering money for people overseas and can even exploit foreign exchange operations to rake in a massive profit. And if he wants to help people clean their foreign assets, he still needs Chuck's assistance.
£5,000 sterling. One of the perks of working in the exchange program in a bank.
Who did it?
No one's in particular, just a little money unaccounted for, floating on top of the books like a layer of cream.
And he just scoops it off.
To completely hook the greedy Chuck, Roy deliberately throws out a bait, telling him that by simply paying $5,000, he can directly exchange it for £5,000. And calculating by the exchange rate, from this single transaction alone, Chuck can clear a net profit of over $2,000. Having tasted this bit of sweetness, Chuck decisively agrees on the spot to scale up his investment. Seeing this greedy big fish take the bait, Roy becomes noticeably thrilled. But when Roy returns home with a heart full of joy, he discovers that Angela has actually gone out on her own without permission. He waits at home on pins and needles, and it is not until the dead of night that Angela finally strolls back leisurely. Instantly adopting a fatherly posture, Roy cannot help but give his daughter a stern scolding. But Angela happens to be at that rebellious age, so she turns around and bolts out. This leaves Roy completely in a panic, his previous anger vanishing into thin air in an instant, replaced by a heart full of self-reproach and lingering fear. He hurriedly and desperately apologizes to his daughter. At this moment, Roy's heart is riddled with self-doubt and guilt. He is filled with nothing but self-negation regarding his life, feeling that he cannot even succeed at being himself, let alone deserve to be a qualified father. Angela seizes this opportunity to press him further about the trade he is actually in. Left with no alternative, Roy can only come clean about his true identity. He originally assumes that his daughter will definitely be terrified upon knowing the truth, but to his surprise, Angela shows not a single shred of fear, becoming extraordinarily excited instead, and even wishing he could teach her the ropes of scamming.
Believe me, it's no fun doing what I do. A lot of the time it's stealing from people who don't deserve it. Old people, fat people, lonely. A lot of the time I feel sick about it.
Not wanting his daughter to go down his old path or live her entire life shrouded in deception and guilt, Roy resolutely shoots down Angela's request. But Angela does not throw in the towel, continuing to pester him relentlessly and play the long game of persuasion. Ultimately, Roy throws his hands up and compromises. Under her father's flawless coordination, Angela uses that fake lottery ticket to successfully hustle the woman. Yet merely learning this petty trick is far from enough for Angela, who grows increasingly curious about everything involving Roy, tagging along relentlessly even when he heads to the bank to handle business. Catching his daughter trying to peek at his banking password, Roy instinctively covers it up with his hand. But at the thought of this being his own daughter, he decides to hide nothing from her anymore, even going as far as to specifically add a customer authorization so his daughter can sign her name on the account. In order to score big off Chuck, Roy straight up withdraws tens of thousands of pounds in one go, setting out to finalize the transaction with Chuck. Roy intentionally pulls out the prepared pounds first, and upon seeing them, Chuck wears a satisfied look on his face, readily handing over the corresponding US dollars right then and there. However, right when both parties successfully close the deal, Angela unexpectedly gets into a heated argument with the bartender on site. Seizing the exact moment Chuck turns around to watch the commotion, Roy has already swapped the two briefcases. Seeing Chuck walk away with the swapped briefcase in hand, Roy hurriedly instructs Frank to tail him all the way, making absolutely sure that the guy boards his flight without a hitch. After this seamless sequence of operations, Roy effortlessly pockets $200,000, relying on the counterfeit bills he prepared in advance. But just as Roy believes the scam has wrapped up flawlessly and takes his seat back in the car ready to pull away, Chuck surprisingly chases after them with a chest full of blazing fury. Chuck aggressively grabs a tight hold of Angela's hair. This sudden twist of events catches Roy completely off guard, leaving him with no choice but to slam on the gas pedal to shake Chuck off. After barely escaping the danger, the rage boiling at the bottom of Roy's heart can no longer be contained. The very first thing he does is track down Frank and give him a fierce tongue lashing, but Frank fires back with a self-righteous argument instead. At the thought of this leaving a permanent stain on Angela, Roy's emotions completely boil over, with all his calmness and sanity getting instantly wiped out. They could have easily evaded the police tracking, but Angela will become the primary target of the police investigation. Hearing this, Roy can no longer care less about the money he just swindled, with his entire focus locked entirely on Angela's safety. He simply treats the cash as a severance package, handing every single bit of it over to Frank in one go. Afterward, Roy sends his daughter back to his ex-wife's side while preparing to skip town himself to lay low for a while. However, that very night, Roy's symptoms suddenly flare up again, and in discomfort that penetrates right to his bones, instantly sweeps over his entire body. He dials his psychiatrist's number for help, but there is absolutely no way to get a hold of him. Driven into a corner, Roy can only suppress the extreme discomfort and nausea in his chest, rummaging through the trash can to search for the pill packaging. After finally managing to read the drug name clearly, Roy rushes into a pharmacy like a lunatic. Right on the shelf, he spots the familiar medicine box at a single glance. But the moment he pops the box open and sees the pills inside, it hits him far too late that he has actually been played. Roy tracks down Klein immediately, only to find the man looking completely in control, openly admitting that even if what he gave Roy is a placebo, his OCD symptoms can still be relieved. Because when it comes to battling this kind of mental illness, it never relies on the drug itself, but rather on Roy's own psychological suggestion.
I'm not a criminal. I'm a con artist.
The difference being?
They give me their money.
Well, that's a nice rationalization, Roy.
I never took anybody who didn't let me out of greed or weakness. And I never used violence.
To pacify Roy's emotions, Klein deliberately brings up Roy's daughter on his own accord. The moment Roy realizes that he is the sole reason his daughter now has a criminal record, a wave of pure guilt and self-reproach rushes straight to his heart, leaving him unable to hold back as he breaks down crying on the spot. Upon Klein's suggestion, Roy sets up another meeting with his daughter. Shedding his usual defenses and disguises, he tries to lay his cards on the table with Angela, pouring out the guilt deep in his heart, along with his profound longing for familial affection. Following a heart-to-heart conversation, the barrier between them dissolves completely. Afterward, Roy takes her back home with him, but the second they step through the door, they discover that Chuck has already been waiting for a long time, while Frank has been beaten to a bloody pulp.
I don't want you to pass out before you make your first payment. But first things first, let's have back the money you took from me.
I don't have it.
Well, let's start with what you do have.
Staring down Chuck's intimidation, Roy has no choice but to submissively do as he is told. He tells his daughter to go grab the money, but he never expects that Angela would actually bring back a pistol. In the frantic chaos, Angela accidentally pulls the trigger. Roy completely loses it, as he never intended to unalive anyone, let alone get his daughter wrapped up in this kind of messy trouble. So he tells Frank to take Angela and get the hell out of there first, while he fetches a trash bag to clean up the scene. But by the time he steps back into the room, he finds the place entirely empty. When Roy regains consciousness, he finds himself handcuffed to a hospital bed, with several police officers standing right beside him. To shield his daughter, he takes the rap for all the crimes entirely on himself, even begging the cops to help him contact Dr. Klein because he has something to say to him. The moment he lays eyes on Klein, Roy feels like he is grasping at the absolute last straw. He hands over his safe combination to Klein, hoping Klein can pass it along to Angela so she can take the money inside and find a safe haven. Once Roy gets everything squared away and sorted out, he passes out cold once again. After a long time, Roy only feels an unbearable, sweltering heat all over his body. When he sits up to take a look around, he is left completely dumbfounded by the sight before him, as this is no hospital at all, but merely a dilapidated shipping container set up on a rooftop. It is not until this exact second that Roy finally catches on to the fact that he has been completely scammed. It turns out that everything is a beautifully orchestrated scam masterminded by Frank. He runs back home like an absolute madman, only to find his massive life savings entirely wiped out, with nothing left but a single letter left behind by Frank. Frank did not just clear out all his assets. He even uses incredibly sarcastic, passive-aggressive remarks to praise him between the lines. Roy instantly feels the entire world spinning around him, leaving him with no choice but to stumble and sprint all the way to the bank. In reality, he does not even need to open the safe, as his heart already knows the answer full well. And sure enough, the reality turns out exactly as expected. At this point, Roy is still holding on to one last shred of luck and hope. His sole remaining hope is wishing that his daughter could actually be real. Carrying this do-or-die expectation, he tracks down Heather in an absolute daze. For the first time in 14 years, he musters up the courage to look this buried past straight in the eye.
She's not here, is she?
Who?
Angela. You were gonna have a baby.
That's why you're here. I lost it.
What Heather says completely tears down his very last line of mental defense. He spends his entire life making a living by deceiving others, trapped day after day inside a web of lies he spun himself. But this time around, he falls headfirst into a trap laid out by someone else, getting a raw, first-hand taste of what it feels like to be deceived and betrayed. In the blink of an eye, a year flies by, and Roy has long undergone a complete makeover, turning into an ordinary carpet salesman. On this day, a young couple walks into the shop to pick out a carpet. But the moment the girl turns around, both Roy and the girl are instantly frozen in their tracks. The smoke show of a girl standing right before his eyes happens to be none other than Angela, the one who played his daughter back then. Yet Roy has long let go of the past deceptions and trauma, having absolutely no intention of blowing her cover. Seizing the brief window while the boyfriend steps away for a second, Angela takes the initiative to come clean about everything to Roy. Back then, after Frank swindled all the money away, he never paid her a single dime of her cut as promised. And she has also washed her hands of the game a long time ago, wanting nothing more than to live a normal life as an ordinary citizen. A person who relies on deception to make a living is bound to be consumed by deception in the end. That brief window of time they spent together unexpectedly untied the knot that had been weighing heavily on Roy's heart for years, letting him break free from the shackles of his OCD once and for all. He even feels a sense of genuine gratitude toward the girl right in front of him from the bottom of his heart. Roy finally understands that the stolen money and the defrauded emotions have all become water under the bridge, and what truly matters is the life he has right now, the people around him, and having the guts to look the real version of himself dead in the eye. As they part ways, a trace of reluctance lingers in both of their eyes, with the past deceptions and barriers long vanishing into thin air amidst this sense of closure and warmth. To Roy, that artificial companionship has long become infinitely more precious than cold, hard cash. Although Matchstick Men is slapped with the label of a crime flick, what it actually delivers is an absolute masterclass in irony, buried deep within human nature. Greed is the ultimate root of every single scam out there. Roy cons others by capitalizing on their greed, yet Roy gets conned himself solely due to his own greed. Greed for the warmth of family bonds, and greed for the illusion of hitting a big payday and retiring early. Loneliness is the ultimate source of all vulnerability. The exact reason why Roy gets taken for a ride by a fake family bond and why he lowers his guard completely is simply because he is far too lonely, craving to be cared for and desperately longing for a place to call home. Roy spends his days playing everyone like a fiddle, only to end up becoming the target of someone else's meticulously calculated plot. What is even more ironic is that when Roy tries his hand at playing a father for the very first time, the only moment he can experience genuine happiness is right when he is teaching his daughter the tricks of the trade. Roy ultimately breaks free from the shackles of lies, returning to an honest and ordinary life under the sun. Lies are like invisible stains hiding deep inside a person's soul, which, over time, will inevitably drag them down into an endless abyss. Only by reclaiming trust can the sunlight pierce through the haze and shine directly into the depths of your heart.